Alan, how are you?
Lately, good.
Hey, Lately.
All right, 6 p.m. Let's see. We have posted a notice of public hearing, and it has been in conspicuous places as required by law. Sent to the Lincolnville Google Group bulletin board, posted on the town website, and distributed to local media. For everyone who may be watching, I don't know if there's anybody participating, but for those who don't know, during this state of emergency as declared by the governor, the Lincolnville Board of Selectmen, and any municipal public meeting subject to the Main Freedom of Access Act may conduct public proceedings through video format such as this. And we have been acting in accordance. Should the board take any action, we will do so by roll call, including adjournment. And we will try to keep participation succinct and controlled through a moderator or someone such as David, the town administrator, or myself, so that we don't end up stepping on each other. We have a public hearing, and I would like a consensus from the board, if it would be okay for the board if David Kinney offer an explanation of the articles that we will be covering during the public hearing.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Okay, excellent, thank you. And so what we will do is we will seek a brief explanation from David Kinney and seek public comment and any reply, move on to the next article and repeat that until we have gone through each one. And then we will close the public hearing. Are there any questions from the board or David? Seeing nothing, I would seek a motion to open the public hearing.
I move with the board open the public hearing regarding the referendum questions for July 14th, 2020 annual town meeting.
I second.
Moved by Selectman Late, seconded by Selectman Barrows. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Selectman Barrows, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes,
Selectman Garrettson, what's your vote?
Yes.
And Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes. The public hearing is now open. David, we'll hand it over to you.
Sorry, procedurally, I guess I need to unmute my microphone to start. We do have a number of people that are on as attendees. And I'm not sure if you want those folks to submit chat, you want me to bring them over, how you prefer that all be done or operated?
What's the board's thoughts?
how would they indicate that they wanted to have a conversation if you didn't swing them over, David, or would they?
There's the ability of anybody that's watching the webinar, there's a chat feature at the bottom of anybody's screen, and they can tap on that, pull up a spot where they can actually type a message that can be seen by all panelists, which is you folks. And then they could either indicate wanting a desire to talk or type their question, however you all want to do it.
How many people did you say were out there?
Right now, there are 8 attendees.
Seems like a lot to have available to speak all at once. I would think we would try to go with the message type so as to reduce confusion and maybe talking on one another and see how that works. Just my opinion.
Yeah. Attendees also have the ability to raise their hand, which I believe we can all see, I think. And because they may not be all interested in the same questions too.
connecting the power. Excuse the shuffle.
I would say, let's just first ask if anyone has a question and they can type it. And if any of them have a burning desire to have come on as a attendee or as a panelist and chat with us, we could do that one at a time.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's quite possible there may be overlapping questions. So, yeah, so let's keep it as chat for now. And then if we need to have a deeper conversation, we can.
Okay. Somebody just, can you all see the chat?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, somebody just wrote, Emily and Mike Eglin just wrote, no questions from us, just watching. So if somebody does have some questions out there in viewer land, please feel free to type something. We'll figure out how to talk and get you your answers to your questions. So on Tuesday, July 14th from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. will be the elections and voting on the state primary ballots, Republican and Democratic Party ballots, state referendum questions, town of Lincolnville ballots for candidates for selectmen, budget committee, school committee. Then there's referendum questions for the town. There's a ballot for the Lincolnville Central School budget and a ballot for the 5-town CSD budget as well. So the purpose of tonight's public hearing is for the questions on the municipal referendum ballot. If anybody's seen the notice for that, it starts with Article 3. Article 1, which is not subject to the public hearing, is the election of a moderator for town meeting. Towns are required to have a moderator regardless of whether it's all referendum or if it is open forum. Question or Article 2 is the candidate elections. Those are not subject to the public hearing for the referendum. The remaining articles, Article 3 through 18, are all the business of the town or what the Board of Selectmen is seeking for approval from the town to implement. And I think probably the best way to do it is to read the article and then see if anybody, and I'll give a brief explanation, then see if the selectmen or the public have any questions. So Article 3 is, do you favor approving the Lincolnville Central School budget for the upcoming 2021 school year that was adopted at the latest Lincolnville Central School budget meeting? Article 3 is basically mute at this point because after the Board of Selectmen approved the warrant, the governor issued an executive order that allowed the Lincolnville Central School or any school budget to be adopted via a different format, which the Lincolnville School Committee has done, which will be a referendum ballot, and they're having their own public hearing or ways to have public input. So although we'll count Article 3 or have results, it really doesn't matter because the other articles that'll be approved or disapproved by the voters will actually decide the budget based on the executive order. So we won't spend an awful lot of time talking about that. I'm looking, nobody seems to have any questions on the chat, so I'll keep going. Article 4, to see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to sell the property located at 33 Beach Road, Tax Map 1, Lot 49, known as the Lincolnville Improvement Association building and site, by a means and upon such terms and conditions as the Board of Selectmen deems advisable, and to execute such contracts, deeds, and other instruments, and to take such other actions as in the Board of Selectmen's judgment may be advisable to effect the sale of such property. Board of Selectmen recommendation is approval. Budget Committee recommendation is approval. That's a long way of saying the Board of Selectmen is seeking the authority to sell or dispose of the LIA building. For those watching or listening, we raised some money last year for a professional evaluation of the building itself and the grounds. The building is owned by the town. First floor is currently, well, the whole building is leased to the Lincolnville Improvement Association. They in turn lease out the second floor to the Historical Society for a museum, office, and archive space. The first floor houses the LIA meeting space. The Women's Club use the building, and Christmas by the Sea has a gathering there. And the LIA does allow that to be available for rentals through those folks. The highlights of the building assessment is that there are numerous building code issues throughout the building with fire separation, door swinging, which ways the door swings and widths, the fire escape, lack of exits, lack of emergency lighting, kitchen hood, and no accessibility to the second floor except for via the chairlift, which doesn't meet ADA compliance. Building has a lack of compliance with Americans with Disabilities Act, including the entrance, the restroom, and the second floor. The roofing is in need of replacement. The siding and trim is either in partial or full need of replacement. Window replacements, the foundation and the crawl space has been deemed inadequate. There is lead paint throughout the interior and exterior of the building. There are traces of mold in the kitchen and in the crawl space. There is some asbestos, primarily limited to the bathroom floor tiles and the mastic that holds it down. And then the other issue that was major was the second floor structural. The ability, quote something out of the report from Gartley and Dorsey, engineers who did the structural analysis. The second floor capacity is limited by the original 5x7 timbers, which only have a live load design capacity of approximately 5 to 10 pounds per square foot. This is severely deficient compared to current standards for any commercial or residential use. Deflection of the second floor is visible, and the supports the calculations which show the second floor to be severely deficient compared to certain current standards. The folks that we engaged also did cost estimating for us. Their base estimate was that the project to remedy those items, but not, renovate the entire building, would be a base price of $624,125. There was a slightly lower estimate if we use less expensive windows and siding. The price would have been estimated down at $580,731. In addition to the construction costs, there was an estimate of professional services of $43,800, legal and advertising costs of $725,000. And then when we added in a contingency for inflation and unknowns, the rounded total was about $725,000. At that cost, the Board of Selectmen had opted to, rather than to seek monies to do that to the building, to put forth Article 4 to seek permission to sell, rather than just stabilize the building and preserving the exterior building envelope. So there, did I talk enough on that? Is there anybody on the attendees that wants to chat something? Raise a hand.
Did we get any questions over email?
We did not.
You seeing anything that we're not seeing, David?
I'm not. You want to cue me to go forward?
I suppose so.
Okay. Article 5, to see if the town will vote to A, authorize the Board of Selectmen to engage in a land swap with the Coastal Mountains Land Trust, whereby the town releases its interest to the Coastal Mountains Land Trust in that certain lot or parcel of land known as the Coleman-Silly portion of the Gilmore lot, and further described as the second parcel described in a deed to the town from Alexander R. Gilmore, recorded in the Waldo County Registry of Deeds in Book 712, page 805, approximately 68.8 acres in size, current tax map 31, lot 41. And in return, Coastal Mountains Land Trust conveys to the town by quitclaim deed with covenant its interest in a certain lot or parcel of land located off Route 1 near the Northport Lincolnville town line, and further described in a deed to Coastal Mountains Land Trust from Deep Creek Grazing Association Incorporated, recorded in the Waldo County Registry of Deeds in Book 4480, page 255, approximately 4.34 acres in size, current tax map 17, lots 63, 67, and 69, all on such terms and conditions as the Board of Selectmen deems to be in the best interest of the town, and B, appropriate $13,700 from unassigned fund balance to fulfill the town's obligations in operating a public beach and park on the parcel it will acquire through this land swap for fiscal year 2021. The Board of Selectmen recommendation is approval. Budget Committee recommendation is also approval. For a little bit of an explanation, the town was approached by the folks from Coastal Mountains Land Trust back in April, where Coastal Mountains was in the process of acquiring this 4.34 acre parcel of land, which goes from Route 1 down to the shore of Penobscot Bay, and used to be part of NBNA's, it was a private park for NBNA, and it's gone through a number of different ownerships since that time. And Coastal Mountains was acquiring this from the current owner, and they wanted to see if the town was interested in swapping this land for a piece of land that the town owns along the Duck Trap River. A number of years ago, I believe 6, the town actually sought to sell this piece of land to the state of Maine, along with 2 others, because the state of Maine and Coastal Mountains is trying to acquire, in essence, a preserve and wildlife corridor along the Duck Trap River. Unfortunately, at the time, we didn't have sufficient title to this property to satisfy what the state's requirements were for it. And so we did not sell it, but we retained what ownership rights we the town thought we had. Coastal Mountains is willing to accept whatever rights we have to the parcel in the deed from us. And in exchange, they grant the town this 4.34 acre parcel of land on the shore. For use, we can use it for anything we want to within the restrictions that are already on the property, in essence for a park. And so the town, they thought the town was better suited to operate a park compared to their mission, which is to have preserves and natural environment. The Coastal Mountains Land Trust has offered also the town the ability to continue to utilize the 68.8 acre parcel of land along the Duck Trap for its traditional uses, which has been basically passive recreation, hiking, snowmobiling, cross-country skiing, and the like. So, and I do now see a question about the previous article, but maybe after we're done with this one, we can jump back to that one.
Yeah, do we have any questions from the public on Article 5 currently? And Jane, we see your question, so we'll go back to that once we've completed this conversation.
Oh, I see Gary has his hand raised. I don't know who Gary is, but how about if I allow him to talk? Would that be all right?
Sure.
Gary, if you unmute yourself, you'll be able to talk.
Sure. Can you hear me now?
We can.
Okay, this is Gary Galesian from Searsmont Road, and I just had a question. If this article were to be passed, does it merely authorize the town to spend the money for the, well, to first of all engage in the swap and then spend the money? Or is this just something that would authorize that action and it would be dependent on select board approval or direction in the future with additional opportunities for public engagement?
I'll take a stab at that. This article authorizes the selectmen, but does not compel them to. We still have to do a reasonable amount more of due diligence and investigation on the property itself to ensure what nobody thinks there was ever a gas station there, but maybe there'd been a gas station there or something like that, that would come up with some evaluation. There's always, the devil's always in the details. When we met with the folks from Coastal Mountains, there was an interest to try to get this to the voters when we could have maximum participation, which really puts us into either doing it in June on a ballot or November. The option's always available to have a special town meeting, but with something of this magnitude, really we're looking at trying to get as many people to contribute as possible. Certainly, I believe, based on the discussions I've had individually with selectmen or in selectmen's meetings, that this is basically the next step in what will be a longer series of steps in terms of trying to figure out how we would actually operate the park. The money is really a amount of money for a holding action to address any known deficiencies. There's some trees that are broken that would or could be considered hazardous. Wouldn't want to open a park with a tree branch hanging up overhead. We want to be able to mow the lawns and do some basic maintenance while we work out the details of operating the park.
So it sounds as though it would be your expectation that there'd be opportunity for future engagement of the public to weigh in on the issue and whatever additional costs and staffing and that kind of thing that might be required to operate a park. It just seems like a fairly complex endeavor.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, we obviously operate a smaller park here at Norton Pond, but they're two separate entities or operations, and certainly policy behind the operation of this land as a park will require a fair amount of effort on behalf of the citizens in the town and the selectmen to determine what the best route is. As I've told a couple of the neighbors, we're actually looking to move into the neighborhood versus neighbors moving next to an existing park.
Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you. That answers my question.
Thanks for your question, Gary. Do we have anyone else who wishes to ask a question on Article 5? Would the board be okay with jumping back to Article 4 for a brief moment so that we can answer Jane's question?
Yep.
Okay, we'll try not to do too much of this because it could become confusing, but David, do you want to try to tackle an answer for Jane?
Sure. For the benefit of people that can't read the chats, which would be anybody watching the webinar if you're not a panelist, the question submitted is, if we vote no on the LIA, what happens? So on Article 4, seeks the authorization from the town for the board to sell the property. If the board voted no, the selectmen would have to regroup and decide what they wish to put forward to the voters. Again, whether that be to fund the building improvements or to whatever they wanted to do. Right now, there isn't a plan B, because plan A is to see if folks want to sell it.
It might be important to note too that the building, as David indicated, is not current structurally sound. So the board potentially could be compelled to have to restrict significantly the usage of the building in its current state.
We got a thanks from Jane. If she or anybody else wishes to talk, you can either submit something on the chat, raise the hand. We haven't done this hand raising thing before, so I'm just learning that part, but certainly
Anything else on Article 4 while we're stopped here? I'm not sure what the appropriate amount of time in digital land is for waiting for questions, but if there's nothing further on Article 4, is there anything further on Article 5? Seeing nothing happening, shall we move along to Article 6?
Sure.
Yep.
Article 6, 7, and 8 are all the municipal budget questions for the coming year. And 6 being the carry forward, 7 being the appropriations of money, and 8 being revenue. So I'll try to address these individually, but they're all linked together. So I just wanted to flag that for people. Article 6 is to see if the town will vote to carry forward the unexpended balances in the following accounts for the ensuing fiscal year: McGuntacook Dams, Norton Pond Water Study, LaSalle Cemetery, Town Dog Account / late dog fees, state plumbing permit fees, and Conservation Commission grants. The Board of Selectmen recommendation is approval, and the Budget Committee recommendation is approval. And my explanation would be these accounts we have traditionally carried forward because of things not necessarily done. The town charter does allow us to carry forward monies for uncompleted capital projects, or obviously anything that's voted by the townspeople can get carried forward. As Laidley talked earlier in the meeting, McGuntacook Dams, we have been contributing to the maintenance and upkeep of the east and west dams of McGuntacook Lake for a number of years. Town has money in that account available to it should we wish to expend it for that purpose. The originally, prior to my arrival, purpose was to build up some funds in that account should more maintenance be required. We haven't appropriated any monies for that in a number of years. Norton Pond Water Study, we had some water quality issues at Norton Pond in and around well, it's in all of Norton Pond, but in and around Breezemere Park in particular. So several years ago, we raised some monies to do some explorations and some analysis there. And this is the money that's left over in those accounts, or in that account. It's not a tremendous amount of money, but it does give us a little bit of leeway should something be discovered in the water sampling and analysis that we routinely do in partnership with the Watershed Association. We'd be allowed to have some money to explore further. LaSalle Cemetery, there was a plan a couple of years ago to have start setting aside some money for a fence for that cemetery. I believe if we wanted to move forward with that, we have ample funds in that account. And if we don't vote to carry forward those monies, we won't have any money in that account. So that's that. Town dog account and late dog fees were actually required by statute to carry that money forward. So if somebody registers their dog late and pays the late fee, we put that in a separate account, and that's available if we find a stray dog that's injured or something to help take care of that in the interim, and then we would seek monies back from the owner should an owner be identified. State plumbing permit fees is kind of a housekeeping item where we collect plumbing fees for the state of Maine, and we, the town, get a portion and the state gets a portion. And we need to make sure we have the money that really belongs to the state carried forward to the next fiscal year. So when we pay the bill, we have the money. And finally, the Conservation Commission grants. A number of years ago, the Conservation Commission did some fundraising and raised some private funds. And if we don't carry them forward, they go into the general fund. And it doesn't seem appropriate to take monies that were raised by the Conservation Commission for their purposes from private donors to use it for other public purposes without donors' consent. That's why we've done that.
Any questions on Article 6? Not seeing anything popping up. Shall we move along to Article 7?
Article 7, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $2,146,092 for the Town of Lincolnville fiscal year 2021 municipal budget as detailed below. Administration and Finance, $458,700. Protection, $265,084. Town Office Account, $31,951. Contingency Account, $25,000. Code Enforcement Account, $48,592. Assessing Account, $38,900. Public Works Account, $1,042,749. Boards and Committees Account, $10,713. Municipal Support Account, $23,252. Provider Agencies Account, $845,000. Whoops, wow. Sorry, Provider Agencies Account, $8,475. Capital Improvement Account, $132,750. Debt Service Account, $59,926. The total of all those accounts, $2,146,092. The FY 2021 proposed municipal budget is available for review and inspection at the town clerk's office and will be available at the town meeting. Board of Selectmen recommendation is approval. Budget Committee recommendation also approval. That was a mouthful. So,
Well done.
yeah, thanks. So the municipal budget that's being presented under Article 7 is for the expenditures. Happy to try to answer any questions, or I can go in detail on those individually.
And I feel like it should be worth noting that the board did go back and prior to putting these numbers together, reviewed the entire budget heavily and are submitting a budget that is $89,260 less than the previous fiscal year. Any questions on Article 7?
I see no hands and no chats.
Okay, well, let's move along to Article 8, please.
Article 8 is to see if the town will vote to appropriate the sum of $1,244,300 from revenues and unassigned fund balance to reduce the property tax commitment for fiscal year 2021. Boat excise tax, 5,000. Vehicle excise tax, 450,000. Local road assistance, 36,300. Unassigned fund balance, 550,000. Municipal revenue sharing, 193,000. Harbor fees and donations, 10,000, for a total of $1,244,300. The Board of Selectmen recommendation is approval, and the Budget Committee recommendation is approval. So for a bit of explanation, those items listed, those are our anticipated revenues for the various accounts or various collections that we make. And these are being used to offset some of the costs up above that we talked about in Article 7 for expenditures. The difference between the two, what's being appropriated in Article 7 and what's being appropriated in Article 8, leaves the amount of money that's necessary to be raised by property taxes for the support of municipal services. That number in total is $901,792, which is a decrease of just over 9% from what has been asked for or what was approved by the voters in this current budget. And Laidley had that number and I don't, so 80, what did you say?
89,620.
Thank you.
Are there any questions on Article 8? Don't see anything. Shall we move along to Article 9?
Yeah.
Article 9, to see if the town will vote to appropriate all of the money received from the state for snowmobile registrations to go to the Lincolnville Mountain Goat Snowmobile Club for the purpose of maintaining the snowmobile trails, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter into an agreement with the club under such terms and conditions as the Board of Selectmen deems advisable for that purpose. The Board of Selectmen recommendation is approval, and the Budget Committee recommendation is approval. For
Any
a way of,
questions?
for
Oh,
way-
sorry.
right, for way of an explanation, when people register their snowmobiles, a portion of that money comes to the town, and this authorizes that money, when it comes to the town, to be given to the Lincolnville Mountain Goat Snowmobile Club for maintaining trails.
I was curious, roughly how much money is raised from this and how active is the Lincolnville Mountain Goat Snowmobile Club?
The snowmobile club, it varies from year to year. This is not a tremendous sum of money. I believe it's been less than $2,000 a year.
Okay, thank you.
They certainly, from what I understand, when they have an active membership, they are good at maintaining, and we have snow, good at maintaining. You know, they're clearing back brush, and they've got a couple of bridges out there that they work on, and then do some trail grooming.
Any questions from our viewers for Article 9? Seeing nothing, let's move along to Article 10.
Article 10, to see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen and Treasurer on behalf of the town to accept gifts, real estate, and certain funds that may be given to the town during the upcoming fiscal year. The Board of Selectmen recommend approval. By way of an explanation, believe it or not, at times people have made donations to the town, and if we don't have this article, we can't necessarily accept them. And certainly if somebody offers a conditional gift, that has to go back to the town to make sure that the conditions offered are acceptable. But we get we get donations periodically of money for special welfare type accounts, and that's probably the most frequent that would fall underneath this category.
Questions on 10?
And one other tidbit, just for your knowledge, once we start with Article 10 and through the remainder of the articles, they only have Board of Selectmen's recommendations. The Budget Committee is required by town charter to make, and state statute, I believe, to make recommendations on articles involving the appropriation or the ability to spend money. None of these remaining articles are expending any of this money, exception of the next article, which is for grant purposes. But that's why the Budget Committee's recommendations stop at question 9. Article 9. I see no hands or no chat.
All right, let's move along.
Article 11, to see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen and Treasurer on behalf of the town to apply for and accept state and federal grants and grants from nonprofit organizations, donations, or other revenues on behalf of the town for municipal purposes, including when necessary, the authority to sign grant contracts, documents, and/or other paperwork, and accept the conditions that accompany grant funds, and to appropriate and expend grant funds and/or other funds for authorized purposes as the Board of Selectmen deems in the best interest of the town during the upcoming fiscal year. That's legalese for if we find a grant out there, we're allowed to apply for it, get the money if we're fortunate enough to be authorized for the grant, and then to expend that money for the purposes that the grant says is okay. Otherwise, we'd be back to special town meeting to get authority to expend grant monies.
Anything here? Seeing nothing, let's move along.
Article 12, to see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to apply alone or with the town of Northport for the exclusive rights to take alewives and blueback herring from the Duck Trap River and all its tributaries in Lincolnville during the upcoming fiscal year, and to further direct the Board of Selectmen to inform the Commissioner of the Department of Marine Resources that the town wishes to close the Duck Trap River and all its tributaries to the taking of alewives and blueback herring for the season. Board of Selectmen recommend approval. And for an explanation, I think it's pretty straightforward. What the article allows, which is for the selectmen to be empowered to get the exclusive rights to taking alewives and blueback herring, but then telling the selectmen that they have to close the tributary. In other words, so nobody takes any fish. Reason being is a number of years ago, the resource was identified as kind of at risk, and this town adopted an ordinance regarding the taking. And we've been working with the marine resources folks to try to enhance the alewife run. I'm trying to think of things that have been happening there, like the culvert that we did under Slab City Road a number of years ago that's open bottom. Before was restricting fish passage. The folks from U.S. Fish and Wildlife and the state also worked with the folks from the Coleman Pond Association so that fish can actually make it into and out of the pond, which has been successful. They stocked it for a couple of years, and that I don't believe they're stocking any longer because the fish are returning and doing their thing. And it goes all the way beyond the bounds of Lincolnville, but we apply with the town of Northport because we share Pitcher Pond with Northport as well. And the alewives that run into and out of that, down in Northport has some abilities to take as well, so. Stop talking.
Any questions or follow-up on this? Seeing nothing, let's move along to Article 13.
Article 13, to see if the town will vote to fix the annual rate of interest at 9% for payment of taxes after the semi-annual property tax installment dates for the upcoming fiscal year, real and personal property taxes. As you all know, as the Board of Assessors, in August, we'll do the property tax commitment and establish the due dates, which by charter have to be installments due in October and then in April. And as an inducement to the property taxpayer to pay taxes on time, we charge interest, which is established by town meeting and can't be anything higher than the amount set by the treasurer of the state of Maine. So this authorizes the charging of interest. If this article fails, we'll either have to have a special town meeting or we won't charge interest at all, and then nobody will have to pay the taxes because nobody feel compelled to.
Questions or follow-up on Article 13? Seeing nothing, let's move along to Article 14.
Article 14, to see if the town will vote to fix the annual rate of interest at 5% to be paid by the town for abated taxes that have previously been paid. The Board of Selectmen recommend approval. This is if we overassess somebody and they apply for a property tax abatement and we have not we or the Board of Assessors or ultimately a court, if it goes beyond the town, decides that somebody paid their taxes and didn't have to because we overassessed them and thus they paid more taxes, we pay them back with interest. And we would offer to, if this article were approved, we'd pay them back at 5%. During my 17 years here, I don't think we've ever gotten to a situation where you had to pay anybody any interest back. We've always resolved abatements prior to anybody having to pay ahead.
Questions on Article 14? Seeing nothing, let's move along to Article 15.
Article 15, to see if the town will vote to authorize the tax collector to accept prepayment of property taxes with no interest to be paid on the same. Board of Selectmen recommendation is approval. For an explanation, some people just continuously pay us a little bit of money every month. The tax collector does not have the authority to take that money without this article unless we're going to pay interest. So we make it clear that the tax collector can accept prepayment and not pay interest on that money.
Questions on Article 15? Seeing nothing, let's move along to Article 16.
Article 16, to see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to make final determinations after notice and hearing regarding the winter closings of roads in accordance with 23 MRSA Section 2953 sub 3 and final determinations after notice and hearing to annul, alter, or modify such orders in accordance with 23 MRSA Section 2953 sub 4. Such final determinations shall not require a vote by the legislative body of the town. Board of Selectmen make recommendation is approval. That article, the town traditionally close a portion of the Martin Corner Road to winter maintenance. It's pretty sketchy any other time of the year, but would be impassable in the winter and at great expense to maintain. that road open in the winter. So this takes this article, typically it's a vote at town meeting that would make the determination to close it to winter maintenance. This article is set forth following the statute, allows the selectmen to have a hearing to close the roads, and then after the hearing to make an order that doesn't have to go back to town meeting for approval.
Questions on Article 16? Seeing no questions on Article 16, let's move along to Article 17.
Article 17, to see if the town will vote to authorize the payment of tax abatements or approved by the Board of Selectmen / Assessors from the property tax overlay, or if necessary, from unassigned fund balance. Board of Selectmen recommendation is approval. So if the Board of Selectmen grant a property tax abatement and we are required to pay somebody back, or I guess that would be the condition, if we had to pay them back, rather than budget some money in the budget that we wouldn't really know how much money to budget, it allows the selectmen to take money from the property tax overlay, which is a mechanism used to round the tax rate up to an even rate, or unassigned fund balance, which is in essence town savings account, to pay those off. Kind of a housekeeping.
Questions on this article? Seeing nothing, let's move along to Article 18.
Article 18, to see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to dispose of town-owned personal property with a value in its judgment of $5,000 or less under such terms and conditions as it deems advisable. Board of Selectmen recommendation is approval. By way of explanation, sometimes the town ends up with articles that were no longer of use to the town for any municipal purpose, and rather than just letting it sit around, this allows the Board of Selectmen to declare it surplus and to sell it.
Questions on Article 18? Seeing nothing. Any last minute questions on any of the articles?
I don't have a question, but I would like to remind anybody that's watching on TV, YouTube, or on this Zoom meeting that all of these questions are on the referendum ballot, and absentee ballots are available now. Well, not at this very instant, but are available during normal business hours here at the town office. You can submit a request online through, actually goes through the State of Maine website, or you can call us, or you can come in and make that request in person, and you can vote absentee between now and Election Day, which will be July 14th. They do need to be back and returned to us by 8 p.m. on the 14th in order to be counted.
All right, so having gone through the articles with brief attachments and opportunity for public comment, and I don't think we see anything or anyone else popping up for a last minute question, I would say we have satisfied the needs of the public to be heard at this point. So at this point, if there are no last minute questions, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I move that the board close the public hearing.
Second.
Second.
Moved by Selectman Garrettson, seconded by Selectman Late. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion. Selectman Barrows, how do you vote?
Yes.
Selectman Late, how do you vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Selectman Dunn, I vote yes. Motion passes. Public hearing is closed. And now we will get on with our business of Board of Selectmen. So before we get going, Selectman Garrettson, would you read the quote of the evening, please?
Sure. Coming together is a beginning. Staying together is progress. And working together is success. Henry Ford.
Thank you very much. David, do we have anyone who wishes to participate for Citizens Forum?
We didn't have any submitted via email, and I'm looking to see and stalling in case somebody wants to throw something on the chat or raise their hand, but I don't.
Okay. If there's no participation for the Citizens Forum, let's move along to the Administrator's report.
Just a couple of things to report. I just mentioned absentee ballots are available. You can submit a request online by calling the town office or by stopping here in the town office during normal business hours. The other is a reminder for any mooring permit holders that your inspection forms are due by July 1st. There are quite a few or a number of people that have yet to return those. They're coming in slowly, but if anybody's watching that has a mooring that hasn't turned that in, please do. And outside of that, I guess I'm done.
Okay, if something pops up, jump in. Let's move along to upcoming meetings and announcements.
All meetings are remote meetings unless announced otherwise. The Lakes and Ponds Committee is scheduled to meet Tuesday, June 23rd, 7 p.m. Broadband Committee, Tuesday, June 23rd, 7 p.m. Midcoast Solid Waste Corporation Board of Directors meets Wednesday, June 24th, 6:30. A meeting that's not on the agenda, the Planning Board is meeting on Wednesday, June 24th at 7 p.m. Five-Town CSD budget meeting is on Thursday, July 2nd, 7 p.m. That's a remote meeting. You can access their information on our website. And the Board of Selectmen meet next on Monday, July 13th at 6 p.m. Hopefully, unless something emergency comes up, that'll be a warrant-only meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any upcoming community events anyone wishes to share? Not many of those happening these days. Let's move along to the two sets of meeting minutes that we have before us. I will entertain a motion for the first set that took place on June 8th.
I move that the board approve the June 8th, 2020 meeting minutes as presented.
Second.
Selectman Late motion, Selectman Barrows seconded. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Selectman Barrows, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes. Thank you very much. And we have a second set of minutes from June 15th.
I move that.
Nope, go ahead.
I move that the board approve the June 15th, 2020 meeting minutes as presented.
Second.
Motioned by Selectman Barrows, seconded by Selectman Garrettson. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion. Selectman Barrows, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson, what's your vote?
Yes.
And Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes. Motion passes. Thank you very much. And moving rapidly along, we have a remote attendee representative for the Whale's Tooth Pub. Yes, David?
Yes, and I'm going to figure out how to bring Dorothy over here.
So we have before us a special amusement permit from the Whale's Tooth Pub. You'll find your a copy of the application in your packet.
And I thought I promoted Dorothy, but oh, here she comes. Yep. Well, she was just on it.
While David works on bringing the representative from the Whale's Tooth Pub over for any questions, there she is. Having reviewed the application, I will entertain a motion to open a public hearing regarding the special amusement permit application.
I move to open the public hearing concerning the special amusement permit application filed by the Whale's Tooth Pub.
Second.
Moved by Selectman Garrettson, seconded by Selectman Barrows. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Selectman Barrows, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson, what's your vote?
Yes.
And Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes, the motion passes. The public hearing is now open, and this is your opportunity. Dorothy, welcome. Thank you for attending.
Thank you.
Speak to us on your application.
It is just time to do something outside, since inside is just a little bit more tricky for the COVID-19 infection. We are doing more seating outside, and we usually have on Friday, and Scott Harrison's playing with some of his friends. Like there's like usually 2 or 3 or so. And on Saturday it's Phil Clements, and instead of doing it inside, if it's nice, we'd like to do it outside with some amplification. Most of the time it will be from probably 5:30 to 8:30. It gets kind of dark by 8:30. It is of course on our premises only for our guests. It is not going to be like an outside concert. It is just for people that are coming to eat and drink and are there on a regular Friday night. And we're going to play from like the parking lot and the edge of the lawn towards the building rather than inside.
Okay, questions from the public for the applicant? David, do we have anyone that you see that may want to ask questions?
Well, we have 4 attendees right now. Nobody's raised a hand or submitted anything on the chat. So I'm going to venture a guess that the answer to that's no. I think at least 2 of them are there for the broadband discussion.
Okay, well, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing then.
I move that the board close the public hearing.
Second.
Moved by Selectman Garrettson, seconded by Selectman Barrows. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion. Selectman Barrows, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes. The public hearing is now closed. Board, do you have questions for the applicants, comments, concerns, etc.? Not seeing anyone jumping up and down, Dorothy. So
Perfect.
the yawning silence can be filled with emotion that I will entertain now.
Good.
I move that after having held a public hearing, that the board finds that the application submitted by the Whale's Tooth Pub complies with the standards set forth in the ordinance governing the issuance, suspension, and revocation of special amusement permits for the town of Lincolnville, and the permit be granted.
Thank you.
Moved by Selectman Garrettson, seconded by Selectman Late. Is there discussion? Seeing no discussion. Selectman Barrows, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson, what's your vote?
Yes.
And Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes, motion passes. Thank you very much, Dorothy, for popping in.
Yes, thank you all. It is interesting listening to you. You guys are working on incredibly hard. It is everybody should spend some time listening to you guys. You're doing a very nice job. No, I'm serious.
Well, thank you, and best of
Yeah.
luck to you, and we'll wish for good weather for your.
Yeah, good weather, basically. That's all we're looking for. And a little.
Oh, you cut her off. Sorry, Dorothy.
Thank you, Dorothy.
I didn't do that. That was David.
He's still,
Got a compliment and shut her down.
Woo!
she
Terrible.
is an attendee. This, sorry, I hovered over it and I guess I hovered a little too long and it thought for me.
It was a heavy hover.
I just like to
Lovely.
run an efficient meeting, but that was not me. So anyway, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving along, we have update from the Broadband Committee. Josh, you want to take this one?
Sure. Yeah, we had a meeting 2 weeks ago and put together a report for the board. Let me just bring it actually up on my screen. I think that's the best way to do this. Let's see. Does everyone see this?
Yep.
No.
Okay, great. So I'm just going to read this. So the Broadband Committee has been meeting since February 27th, 2020. The meeting, let's see, we met with Alan Hinsey from LCI. The committee recognized that LCI already has approximately 75% of Lincolnville connected to broadband internet, and LCI would likely be the most cost-effective and timely route to bringing broadband to the rest of the town. But there were several concerns expressed about service issues with LCI and the lack of control over our town's broadband services. We reviewed contracts that LCI has with Bodenham for installing broadband internet service in that town. We reviewed information from the Island Institute for a broadband sustainability planning grant. A copy of the Island Institute's information sheet on the grants is attached. We met with Roger Hynett and Paige Clayson from Islesboro, who shared information regarding the municipal broadband system presently being operated on the island. Islesboro used a $3.8 million municipal bond to finance installation of broadband internet. The town received over $100,000 in donations as well. They hired GWI of Biddeford, Maine to install and maintain the system, which is owned by Islesboro. The town provides the same broadband internet service to all households at a cost of $360 a year to the household. The town pays debt service on the bond, which including $50,000 a year on insurance and $100,000 a year on pole attachment leases. Roger and Paige stressed that the system provides high quality service to all households, and the control of the system, including control over privacy, was very important in their view. So moving forward, the committee supports and is looking forward to working on potentially pursuing a grant with the Island Institute that would be used for consulting services to assist the committee as we review the feasibility of each option and taking a survey of town residents to assess their views on LCI and any issues with its services and costs, as well as other service providers they may have. A broadband system owned by Lincolnville and incurring the bond and operating costs, and their experience with their current internet providers. And now I'd like to share with you a draft of our survey. So see if I can figure out how to do this. Okay. So this is not the final version. We certainly want as much input as possible on this. But the idea is once the survey is finalized and ready to share it on the Google group, on Facebook, to possibly have flyers with links to it at the general store and at Drake's, at the town office. And hopefully we could get a really good sample size of the town. So here we have a little preamble. The town of Lincolnville is conducting a survey of its residents to determine current access to broadband. The Lincolnville Board of Selectmen have a goal that affordable broadband is available to 100% of residents. Broadband service is defined as a minimum of 25 Mbps download and 3 Mbps upload. Your contribution to the survey will help the town determine the best steps to get 100% of our residents access to broadband. And so, first question, who is your current internet provider? And I list everyone that I could think of. I don't know if a few of these are actually in Lincolnville, but having it as an option certainly gives people the choice if they are there. And we also have a other in case there is a ISP that we don't know of. What internet service do you have? Fiber optic, DSL, dial-up cable. I think this question is important because how people view their service can depend on what kind of internet service they have. What do you currently pay for your internet service? What download speed are you paying for? What upload speed are you paying for? What is your actual download speed? And then we include a link where people can test their speed. What is your actual upload speed? Same link. Are you satisfied with the internet service you currently have in your home? If no, why not? Does anyone in your household use the internet to work from home? And then there's several options. Do you have students in your home who use the internet for school? Does your internet speed negatively impact working from home, online education, transmitting large files, video calls, video games, streaming movies and TV shows, and other? Do you think the town of Lincolnville should explore creating and operating a municipally owned internet service similar to what Islesboro has done? Why or why not? You can read more about it here, and then there's a link. We think it's important that this question is crafted very carefully. It certainly should mention that this would probably be through a bond, which would raise property taxes. So that is certainly not the final version of that question. It needs to be crafted really, really well to be fair and accurate and capture an honest response. How much would you be willing to spend a month for faster internet service? This is also a question. It's not finalized. I don't know the best way to ask this, if it's also factoring in a bond and property taxes, but most people think of their bills as a monthly cost. So that's the wording for now. And then this is very important because LCI tells us there are, I think 400 something homes, I forget the exact number of people in Lincolnville who have access to fiber optic but choose not to subscribe to it. And this is a way for the committee to actually ask directly, do you have access? You know, perhaps the question should actually say fiber optic, and see if that number lines up with what LCI has told us. And then ask, if yes, why do you choose not to? And then general comments, and people are free to write as much as they want about their thoughts and feelings about broadband. I'm going to stop sharing that. So yeah, we look forward to continuing to work on this issue, and yeah. Any questions?
Will the survey be available in good old-fashioned paper format for individuals who may not choose to participate in the digital platform?
Yeah, we can certainly have that printed, have that at the town office, wherever, and then we can just input that directly to the survey.
So you're not thinking of doing a mailer?
That is an option that was discussed.
Because if you do a mailer, you're targeting every taxpayer, or potentially. If you're just going to target the electronic part of it, then it's only people who potentially have connectivity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In my mind.
Yeah, we would certainly prefer to have 100% of residents fill it out. I think if we can pay for a mailer and send that out to every household, that would be ideal. I think also having an electronic version, I I don't know what the response rate is generally of a paper mailer versus electronic, but finding some way to do it both ways while making sure that people don't fill it out twice, I think would be ideal.
Yeah, you could always create some sort of matrix within an Excel spreadsheet, you know, and be able to cross-reference any, you know, if you're to autofill, say, addresses to be mailed out, then you could cross-reference them as they come in, you know, to exclude double dippers, so to speak. I'd be curious to know, I wonder how many of our residents or taxpayers aren't in fact year-round residents and may just have a camp. And, you know, that certainly that could be included in their reason why they choose not to have internet, but it may help inform someone's decision of what type of connectivity they opt for.
That's a great question to add. Okay.
And I definitely agree with, I am wary of us either being perceived or in fact leading the witness, so to speak, with the question with regards to the Islesboro model of municipal broadband. Because certainly as the original charge from the select board is that finding out what our communities, what our citizens' primary goals are with connectivity supersedes buying into any one particular model of internet providers. And I definitely would like the whole cost. And of course, that will depend on what an individual pays for taxes. But I mean, David, what was our last road bond total that we borrowed?
Sorry, 850,000.
We bonded 850,000. We've been paying that for how long?
We took out a 15-year note on that.
Yeah. So, you know, $3.8 million bond that's big. That's
real money.
That's a lot. That's real money. So, yep.
Not my meeting, but I have a question or a suggestion.
Yes, David.
I wonder if the survey should ask people if there should be an opening question. Are you a Lincolnville resident, and what your address is? Couple reasons. One, no offense to the fine people in Northport or Camden or wherever in China filling out, you know, a questionnaire that we put online when we'd like to know the Lincolnville experience. And the other is, it might help us in our efforts to identify where the shortcomings are. If we, you know, if somebody had to say, yeah, I live on High Street at such an, you know, 485 High Street and I can get dial-up, it might be good to know versus someplace else.
Yeah.
Indeed. And did everybody see the comment from Jordan Barnett Parker? Thank you for your comment.
I have a question for the board. So the in your packet, we included the Broadband for Island and Coastal Sustainability Planning Grant from the Island Institute. This is for planning, and this could be used for any type of broadband planning, be it working with a private entity or a municipal broadband service. The amount of the grant can range from $5,000 to $15,000. Matching funds are required, and any application with an amount requested that is more than 15,000. Or anyways, it goes on. My question is, if if members of the broadband committee could fundraise and raise that money themselves without the town having to pay any of the matching funds, would that be something the board would be interested in?
Well, that was my primary question, given that we haven't budgeted any monies for such things. So if we got the grant, where would those monies come from to meet that matching requirement?
Yeah. And so, yeah, if private individuals could come up with that matching part of the grant, would the board accept that gift, I guess is the question. And I don't know the procedure of how that would work. Do they just
Well,
write a check to say, say for broadband planning grant?
yeah, I mean, it's a marginally larger conversation if we're asking private citizens to contribute that amount. How do we spend dollars here in town? So I'm curious to know the board's thoughts.
I think your survey is going to be important to find out what the taxpayers' goals are. Whether it be in paper form, whether it be electronic form, or both. I think that's the wording of the survey is of utmost importance, so as not to indicate that the town's going to move forward with municipal broadband. I'd really like to know what the town's goal is first. Maybe that doesn't even answer your question, but that's what sticks right in my mind. And all I see here is municipal broadband. Alsboro did this. And I'm not sure Lincolnville should go in that direction.
So my question is, okay, so regarding the survey, myself and the committee see the value in at least asking about municipal broadband. But we have no idea what it would cost Lincolnville without, some study on it. And so I don't know if what we should do with that question, because without a number, then it could be viewed as, oh, the broadband committee and the selectmen support this idea and they're just saying it's going to be a bond. And if there's no dollar figure attached, then I don't know, that could bias the answers, because it sounds like it would, well, with no dollar amount, then it could be low or high. So we could leave it off of the survey, leave the question off. But I don't know the best way to not lead people on that, but ask what people think of the concept at least.
Aren't we already potentially 70% wired for connectivity townwide?
I think 75, yeah. So we certainly have, I mean, a majority of Lincolnville people have broadband access at least.
So comparatively speaking, we have a small amount that needs yet to be achieved so that the town could potentially be 100% connected. After that is done, it's up to the town to pay for the service, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to know where we're not connected and what the people's goals are that aren't connected. I mean, I know our signal is bad, but I think we use that as leverage with Lincolnville telephone. Come on, the rest of the town wants to do this, but you got to step up your game.
Well, I mean, to that point, Kern, I feel like there's that big missing piece. So we have 75% coverage. Of those 75%, how does that break down? LCI must have that information. And so, clearly there are citizens here in Lincolnville that are dissatisfied with their internet. So of the individuals being serviced, how does that break down? And then the other demographic, the other 25%, how does that break down? I agree with Kern that I feel like we're trying to lump too many questions in together, and the question of municipal broadband is a bigger conversation, and it has great implications to our taxpayers. And while Islesboro is a wonderful neighboring community, it is really truly impossible to compare the model that they're operating from to ours, because their demographic and their tax base, and indeed their whole financial decision-making paradigm is drastically different from Lincolnville. So trying to compare dollar figures it's really a I don't want to say a waste of time, but it's not an apples to apples conversation in any way, shape, or form. Saying what a resident on Islesboro pays for municipal broadband has no bearing whatsoever on what a Lincolnville resident may pay.
Yeah, certainly. So
I would caution anyone throwing dollar figures around for any service, because it's not an equitable conversation to have.
And I should add that LCI has told David Kinney that they'll be supplying us with a good deal of information regarding where people don't have access to broadband. So that information is forthcoming, or they say they'll be sending that along. So that'll be very helpful to have that in addition to survey responses.
Did the representative indicate at all how they're performing as a company within Lincolnville? I mean, I personally am less than impressed at their advertisement, I guess they would call it, which is buried somewhere within the bills that they send. But, I just, for their customers, what are they doing for their customers in terms of education and outreach, if anything?
I don't know. They didn't really touch on that part. David, were you watching that meeting when Alan Hinsey gave his presentation to the broadband committee? I wasn't sure if you were.
I did not.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm disappointed. I was hoping that they would come armed with a little bit more useful information, but I guess I'm not surprised. So Kern, I'm hearing that you would rather, in this initial outreach to our citizens, step away from overtly asking about a particular municipal broadband model.
Yeah, I don't want to negate that, but I think your initial communication with the taxpayers is, what's your goal? What do you need? What do you have now? I don't want to lead them at this point right now, but I certainly don't want to take the information and just throw it away.
Yeah.
I think we need to know what the taxpayers' needs are. And their wants before we can make the decision of which way we can go with that. I really also think there needs to be a stern conversation with LCI about what are you doing for your customers to that question, and what are you doing to enhance your customer service? Because I've been on the receiving end of some less than pleasant conversations, and I'm not a happy customer either, and I'm right across from their switch. So it is what it is. But I think that's what we should do first.
Okay.
It may take a little bit longer, but I think you need to figure out it, just in my mind, Josh, and maybe somebody else has a different opinion on this, but I think you need to figure out how you're going to word what you're going to ask ask the taxpayer and how it's going to be delivered, full well knowing that we've got 25% of people that don't have connectivity that aren't going to see any electronic questionnaire. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Or potentially you're just not super email savvy, and so it just may get lost.
yeah.
David, how long does it take for something to be printed, stamped, and mailed to everyone in Lincolnville?
It depends on, obviously depends on how big or a package it is. I mean, I think the last thing we did was on, it may have been on 11 by 17 folded, probably mailer for the town office. Doesn't take too long once you have the actual item, because you can use the, I can't remember what the postal service thing, you know, it's like every address, and they've got 3 or 4 different carriers that you can pick to saturate the area. You know, it's a matter of probably a week after you actually have it done to get it bulk mailed.
Okay.
And what's the cost to us to do something like that?
Ooh.
I had the figure from when we did the town office, and I just don't.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. I'd hesitate to guess.
I have one idea. It might take a little bit of homework to achieve it, but we could send out the survey electronically first, you know, with the question asking, are you a Lincolnville resident? What is your address? And then subtract those from the list of all the mailing addresses in Lincolnville and send paper copies to those remaining homes.
Yeah, reduce the amount and perhaps cost.
Yeah.
Yeah, although the mailer, if it's I think it's EDDM, every door direct mail. If you do it to every door or every address, it is less expensive than if you, considerably less expensive than if you pick and choose your addresses you're sending it to.
Okay.
Because what they do is they just, you know, the mail carrier gets a box of them, of the mailers, and at every stop, they grab one of those, kind of like the Hannaford Flyers and that type of thing. And it's easier for the mail carrier to grab it at each location than it is specific address. If you send it to specific addresses, it all goes to Portland, gets sorted like regular first class mail, and comes back to those addresses pre-sorted versus them grabbing it at each
Okay.
stop.
Okay, then never mind.
Good idea, though.
Well, if you could get enough people to do it electronically, you know, then get down to 55 cents a mailer, but every door direct mail, you know, I think it's like half the cost, but.
Okay.
Okay.
So what I would like to do, sorry, is have the committee look at the survey again, bring the questions back to a future meeting. I guess not our next one, since that's going to be a quick one, but the one after that. Have the board look at it, and when the board is satisfied with the survey, then we can get going on it.
That sounds good. Yeah, I wonder if just a more open-ended question, much like some that you've had in there that, you know, says, you know, do you have any recommendations or suggestions for the committee? You know,
Okay.
that there may be, who knows, someone may have another model that we haven't even considered yet.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Is there anything else, Josh, on this that you feel? I know we sort of skirted around the conversation of grants, the grant and the matching. I'm curious to hear what the board's thoughts are on that. And to be clear, the purpose for hiring, as always with any consultant, the question is the most important one. So has the committee formed the specific what that the consultant would be hired for?
Sorry, the committee or the board?
The committee.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
I mean, so that's my concern specifically with having matching funds from a private donor. If it were to donate to the select board for the select board to hire a consultant and the board is going to draft the question, I
Yeah.
guess I throw it out to the board. What would our goal be? Kern, are you muted?
No.
Okay. Wasn't sure if you were talking.
I don't know what we would ask a consultant other than what's our best way to get everybody, what's our most economical way for our town to get everybody broadband connectivity. We can't force people to pay to have it, but we certainly can have it available to them if they want. And I guess I don't know. I don't know. I'd have to think about that.
So putting the grant conversation on hold, this may be as much for David Kinney as Josh, but we have this bond issue coming up. And certainly, although not explicitly in the charge, what work do we need to do or can we do that will position us well to potentially take advantage of this bond should it pass?
So yeah, if we decide as a community to work with LCI, you're referring to the $15 million Connect Me bond. Okay, we would have to. Hold on, I can bring that up really quickly. Just give me one moment. I'm going to bring up what LCI has asked that they need for the ability to access that bond. Let's see. Oh, hold on, not that. Sorry, linkable info. Basically get support signatures, 50% pre-sale applications. So this is work that the committee isn't doing yet. I think, yeah, that was it in terms of working with LCI. So I think the first step is for the survey to be completed to get a sense of how the community feels about their service provider. You know, actually, this just made me realize, should we ask a question on the survey? Do you think the town should work with LCI to expand broadband access, or do you think the town should work with LCI to jointly apply for Connect Me funding? I think if we want to get a sense, I think that might have been even part of the charge. If we want to get a sense of where the town is in terms of working with LCI, I think we need to ask that directly.
Right, and David, is there a time frame where that window is going to close that we need to be sensitive to?
Well, I'm sure that when the money is, or assuming that the bond issue passes, there's going to be a period of time within which that Connect Me opens up a grant window. I'd like to think that they're behind the scenes working on what the application package will actually look like before it's approved, but there will be some lag. They won't have the money right off the bat. It's not like you pass the bond and this $15 million shows up in your bank account. But there are obviously communities out there that are ahead of where we are in terms of preparation. And 15 million sounds like a lot of money, but it goes pretty quickly. I mean, if you think about Owlsboro's, I can't remember what Josh said, 3.8 million on capital. So you could do what, 3 or 4 Owlsboros and then the money's gone. I suspect that they're looking to expend this money. Well, I know they'll be looking to expend it on the underserved or unserved areas. And there's going to be a fair amount of competition. And I don't know if it'll be a rolling application until they're out of money and they awarded it, or if they're going to put it out in one package and say, you know, everybody apply by August 31st, and we'll review all the applications to see what's the most cost effective to get service to the largest number of people for the littlest amount of money.
This is a bond, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the state's going, one of the referendum questions on the state's ballot that'll be voted on in July specifically asks the townspeople, citizens of the state of Maine, if they want the state to go out and borrow $15 million for a Connect Me to expand broadband access throughout the state. And you know, it's gonna have to be some sort of competitive process, because I'm certain that there will be more requests than there's money available. And so they're gonna look to try to say, okay, this community or this portion of this community can serve 100 people at $100 a piece, versus this one over here can only serve 50 people at $400. You know, where are they gonna get the best bang for the buck? And that's what they're gonna be looking at for sure.
So yeah, Josh, it seems clear that having that as a component makes a lot of sense.
Okay, I'll make sure we include that.
Awesome.
And that's all I got.
Thank you very much
You're welcome.
for all of that. Gentlemen, anything else for Josh on this particular subject right now? Okay, not seeing anything. Then let's see, Josh, do you have, besides the extensive update you just gave us, anything else you'd like to share?
The only thing I want to mention, it's in the back of our packet regarding this MDOT, Maine DOT.
Let's put a pin in that. So let's keep this just to select board participation committee
Okay.
updates.
Sure.
But that's on my list of things to talk about before we adjourn also.
Okay, good.
Okay, anything else there?
No.
Okay, Selectman Barros, do you have anything you wish to share?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. Selectman Late, do you have any updates you wish to share?
No, we have a Midco Solid Waste Board of Directors meeting on Wednesday night. We haven't had any other subcommittee meetings as of right now since the last one's last month. So I'm kind of at a loss for words. I know that doesn't make sense when it comes to me, but I got nothing.
Mark it down in history.
Yes.
Kern and David, I had a question for you both. How did household hazardous waste day go?
I wasn't around.
Okay.
I haven't got any feedback on it as
We'll get
of,
the
so
feedback.
I don't know how they did. Yeah.
Okay.
I just had a question. How are conversations going regarding looking at our upcoming contract renewal or looking at new contracts for our solid waste disposal provider? I know it's a year out.
The Strategic and
Yep.
Capital Planning Committee are in depth working on that. Where we had some presentations on our last board meeting to the board of hauling and tipping contracts, fees, recommendations of term contracts. And we had, I believe, 3 different vendors that when we set out an RFP that responded with some very competitive numbers that would actually save the towns a significant amount of money. We're also looking at where we're going to haul it. So I don't have any information to actually put on the table for that right yet. But again, in the next 30 to 60 days, we'll be well into it.
Great, awesome, thank you.
They have, in our packet for Wednesday night's meeting has a fair amount of facts and figures in there that we're going to be taking up and going over at the meeting. And I've skimmed through them. I haven't sat and read them. I sat and read this one first. That's tomorrow night's job, to read that one. And for the next meeting, I'll have some information that actually says something. But right now, all I have is my opinion of a quick read, which isn't that we're going to have a good discussion, I think, on it Wednesday night.
Fantastic, thank you.
Great.
And I have nothing to report. We have not had a meeting for the EMS Review Committee. In the back of your packet is the quarterly report. Our service provider is still meeting all of our contractual requirements. So we have the treasurer and payroll warrants to approve and sign. I'll entertain a motion.
I move that the board approve the treasurer and payroll warrants.
Second.
Moved by Selectman Barrows, seconded by Selectman Garrettson. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion. Selectman Barrows, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson, what's your vote?
Yes.
And Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes. The motion passes. And I know Selectman Garrettson, you had some additional business you wish to bring up, as do I, which was the correspondence from MDOT. I'll let you say your piece first.
Okay. Well, I just wanted, so I'll try to sum it up. Basically, the correspondence from MDOT states that it's a notice to inform the town that they'll be performing routine control of small trees using an herbicide within the proximity of state roads. And I just wanted homeowners that have property alongside the state roads that if they do not want the state to spray herbicides, they can contact Robert Mooseman, the statewide vegetation manager, and they can agree if the private landowner wants to cut the brush back themselves, they can. They just need to reach out to this individual.
Yep. And it's quite a lengthy contract that you need to request. And it's a no spray contract. And also, I guess along those lines, so I do encourage any landowner that wishes to maintain their own right of way, absent of pesticide or herbicide application, to follow through with filling that out. But I am curious, David Kinney, because it also says that municipalities willing to control roadside brush to their standards, of which I know they have very detailed standards. Has the town of Lincolnville, in my memory, I don't know that this conversation has come up. And so I'd be curious at a future agenda, not our next one, knowing we want to keep it to a warrant only, but I would be curious to know what the costs are to our taxpayers for seeking this alternative and what that alternative looks like. Because if it's manual brush clearing, I would much prefer to have that happening in our ditches and roadsides than application of herbicide.
You can look into it.
Awesome.
Great.
Any other business? Anyone on the board wishes to conduct? Seeing nothing, I will entertain a final motion.
Move to adjourn.
We have a
Second.
motion. Selectman Barrow's motion, Selectman Garrettson seconded. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Selectman Barrows, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Did we do the treasurer and payroll warrants?
We did.
Oh, okay. Well, I missed it.
You voted yes.
What's going on?
We got the video.
Okay.
But way to get, we gotta stay on top of each other in these.
Something's gotta happen here. Yes, my vote is yes.
Okay, excellent.
Motion to adjourn.
Selectman Garrettson, what is your vote to adjourn?
Yes.
And Selectman Dunn, I vote to adjourn. The motion passes. Thank you all who participated tonight. And if there are any remaining questions, feel free to reach out to us or at the town office or request copies of the budget or any of the articles that we discussed tonight. Please vote. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Night, people.
Night.
Night.
Night all.